pinball.
Time we're looking at, are we about on time to get going? I don't think we have an end date, and that's a really bad thing for you guys because I talk a lot. I'm Butch Peel. I've been working for Jersey Jack since 2012, I think it was. I met Jack for the first time at the Texas Pinball Festival in 2011. Went and saw him talk. Got super excited about what he was going to do. Told my wife we got to buy one of these Wizard of Oz games. It's going to be the best game ever. And she was like, "Well, I got the $150 deposit in my purse. You know, that was not a problem." So I went from meeting Jack in the Texas Pinball Festival in 2011 and ordering my game. I was a customer before I became an employee. 2012, he and I have been talking back and forth by email. I kind of came up with his Jack of all trades, master of fun line that he patented or whatever it is he did, trademarked. And so we've been talking back and forth, and we decided to meet at the 2012 Texas Pinball Festival. So we went out for dinner, and he had a seminar the next day, and he called me out in the audience and says, that guy there is going to be working for me. And then in 2013, I was giving the JJP presentation at the Texas Pinball Festival. So yeah, it moved kind of quickly. I have a real job that I'm getting ready to retire from. I've applied for and received an early out from my government civil service job. So 32 years of civil service. I'll be retiring in September, so I can devote more time to my passion, the pinball. Jack never will tell me what it is that I said to him that made him want to hire me, but you know, I got to pinch myself all the time. I feel very fortunate because I'm one of you guys. You know, I come to shows, I see all this stuff that I just thought it would be fantastic to be able to work for Jack, and I had a lot of things that I thought I could bring to the table. I think a lot of things I could help with, and one of which was writing manuals for the game. So that was the first thing that I started doing for Jack, was writing that Wizard of Oz manual. And to show that I wasn't a one-trick pony, I got the Hobbit manual out too. So you know, got two of them now, and we've got a version of the third manual here for Dialed In that is now shipping with the games. It's version 1.0. It's, I don't know, 70% done. It's 200 pages right now. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to improve all along, make things look better for you, make things a little more intuitive, a little more easy to understand, finding better ways to represent things. And then I get tempted, you know, like the software guys do, to go back and update the Woz and Hobbit manuals a little bit too. So we just kind of keep providing more and more accurate information. The tech support guys are sending me emails all the time. I know you care about this, so this is wrong. And they love finding things when I mess up. So, and I appreciate all the input. You know, anybody want to talk to me about manuals? If there's something you think that should be in there that you haven't seen yet, I'd love to hear your ideas. I'm open to doing whatever it is to make the manuals better. It's really tough. I take it as a real challenge to try and write a manual that lives up to these games. You know, when I came in with Wizard of Oz, it was just like, you know, it felt like somebody dumped a dump truck on top of me, and there was just so much stuff that had to be put in there, and so many different things with the RGB LEDs and the way everything was controlled to make it different. You know, to be able to give you enough familiarity with it to you can pick it up and start working on your games too. We're gonna jump inside this guy here. I don't know how many of you guys had a chance to play it so far, like recently. So the good software and all, right, the latest greatest. So he's gonna hook up to his camera here. I'm gonna go through a couple more slides before we do too much of that, though.
You just launched the application.
Okay, so you guys can look at my pockets here. So I was thinking about that, my civil service. I've been 32 years working for the U.S. Army Research Lab, and I'm thinking the only two things I have more time invested in than that is my marriage of 34 years with my wife, which my anniversary is Sunday, so I'm going to fly home, try and get home from time for a dinner, and pinball. I've been involved with pinball since the early 80s also. Bought my first game, taught myself how to fix things. I was scared to death of them when I first got my first game, and as you all know, when you've got your first pinball, you've got your first broken pinball, and very shortly thereafter, they require, as owners, you're a technician, you're a repairman all the time too. You're a tweaker. You're gonna try and make them work just the best you can. You know it when something's not working right. And I've spent a heck of a lot of time with my head in one of these games, working on games of all different manufacturers, all the way back to electromechanicals, all the way up to the Pinball 2000s and these latest masterpieces that we're putting out now. So, okay. Alrighty. So I started out, pinball was an interest. I enjoyed playing pinball as a kid a heck of a lot. Then it became a hobby after that, and I started thinking, well, yeah, maybe I could get a game or two, and I started getting a game, and I found out that I had a real passion for this thing. Passion my wife wishes I had for repairing cars and, you know, washing and dryers and things like that, mowing the yard, that kind of stuff, but it just hasn't happened. I started working for Jack, so it became a job, and I've also worked with, you know, doing some mail order repairs and things like that. And I just, you know, it's basically my life. I love everything about pinball. I can't get enough of it. I'll talk about it all day long. Just some general repair tips. I was thinking of this as I started putting together a toolkit. I don't know if any of you have seen some of the videos that we started doing. I put all this work into putting a big old tool case together, you know, rolling cart with red cart with all these tools in it. And what do I need? What do I need? What do I need? And then all we got into was, you know, was able to go into the play field and show how the game worked a little bit. And we did that in Wizard of Oz and Hobbit. But one of the things that I use all the time are my nut drivers. And these nut drivers are color coded. And that's kind of be my theme of what we're going to talk about today with Dialed In and all too, is a color code. This black, brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet thing that we have in the games is kind of similar to my tools set. Because I'll take these tools and I get magnetic set, because some of the nut drivers won't fit around, a magnetic one won't fit around in some areas. A magnetic one works great when you're reaching in between things to bring a screw back out with you. And I take in some of this colored tape, electrical tape. They sell it all over Home Depots, places like that. And so I put a colored tape to determine what size. Blue is 3/8, and that comes from the nut drivers, right? The blue is the 3/8, 11/32 here. I'm wondering why I'm doing this. And the yellow is 5/16, 1/4, and then you barely use the 3/16, the tinier ones. And you get up into the brown and red, you don't use those. But these yellow, red, green, blue, I find I'm using those all the time. And I've learned, you know, with an 832 screw on it, you're going to have something that needs 11/32. If you got a 10/32, you're going to need a 3/8. So when I need different types of tools to get into different places, that's where you get into all these different ways. You know, the Matco sells these things that have a rotating head on them, so that you can put it at any angle and go in there, and it's a ratcheting. You just flip it over. You want to loosen, you want to tighten. And there's a 3/8 one. I put a blue tape stripe on it. And the green one that looks just like it sitting next to it on a table, I put a green piece of tape on, so that at a glance I know when I'm looking for 11/32, if I can't get this guy in there, I'll grab one of these, or I'll get one of my magnetic drivers. And even though they're a little color coded on the end, I put a tape strip around each one of their shafts also. Makes everything really easy to pick up out on my toolbox. And when I need a 5/16, I know where everything is. I can see it from a distance, whether it's over there, and I got to lay down what I've got and go pick it up. Just a general repair tip. Everything that we attach on a pinball playfield is going into plywood. It's hardwood plywood. It's got multi-layers in it. It's glue and all that sort of thing. But it is subject to stripping. And if you're taking screws in and out all the time, if you're removing something, if you're adjusting something, if it gets loose over time and the ball is hitting it and it's vibrating, tight is where is right when you're talking on pinball machines. Everything needs to be tight. So pop bumpers, you know, flipper mechanisms, all the bases, everything, they're going to loosen up over time. The shipping, they'll you know, it's a good idea when you get your game to tighten all of the pop bumpers down, tighten all of the flipper mechanisms down, everything, all the posts, make sure no wobble, anything at all. Everything should be just rock solid that you want the ball to bounce off of, because the ball will destroy things really bad. And when you're taking a screw out under a playfield, what you leave behind when you pull that screw out, when you get to the very end, you don't want to keep turning it in the wrong direction like that, because you're chewing up the wood right there. So as soon as the screw comes out, that's why a magnetic driver is a really nice thing to have. It pulls the screw out with you, and you can, you know, use less pressure as you're coming out further, and you take a screw out from underneath the playfield. So if you go to put that back in, there are threads inside there, just like in a nut. And so when you if you put it right in and start turning to the right, you're going to cross thread and chew up the wood inside. What you want to do is put the screw in backward, back up a little bit, and that screw will climb back out, it'll line up with the threads, and it'll thump right back in. And when it hits solid like that, then you start going forward. You'll notice it goes in really smooth, and when it gets to the end, it tightens really well. So do that all the time. Anything out of plastic, out of wood, on these pinball playfields, anything like that. The pop bumpers go into a plastic body. Same thing. When you unscrew a screw there, when you put it back in, go backwards a little bit, drops in, and then go forward. So just kind of, just some general tips that I've learned over the years. Some of the things I'd really like to put into some more of our videos. I hope to get a chance to do that someday. So with that, let's go underneath the playfield here and look at what you guys all came to see. So first thing we notice with the dialed-in game, as opposed to, when I'm talking, our games, Hobbit and Wizard of Oz are both wide body. So this is a standard cabinet. Pat Lawler went in and designed a whole new cabinet here. So the legs, when they're basically all the way screwed in, all the leg levelers are all the way up, you're about the 6-degree pitch. So there is bring this guy up there. Get my leash here. Stand over on this side. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, good. A little disorienting here. There is a bubble level. Pat loves that idea of having a bubble level on the game. Then if you see in close there, you see the black gradation lines. Every one of those is about a 1/2 degree. So as that bubble moves up and down in there, you're going to get 6.5, 7, and on up if you raise the back legs. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. A pinball machine is completely customizable. We have a lot of different settings and things you can use to change the way the game plays. There are posts on the out lanes and traditional places that are adjustable, so that you can take these posts out, move them down, move them up, open your out lanes a little bit. Same thing over on the other side. There's posts here that can be either taken out completely or moved up to a different hole up in here. See that? Ways to make your game play the way you want it to play. That's what it's all about. When you own one of these games, it ought to play the way you like it. So let me lift the playfield up here and talk a little bit about what's underneath. So when you play the game, not a whole lot of people have been able to see underneath. So and I get everybody into that. No, the balls won't fall out. It's okay. I'm going to close this because there's a jam switch up in there in the trough neck that will continue to fire the buck, thinking there's a ball jammed up in there, and get it out. So opening the coin door here disables the high power, which turns off all the coils here, and makes me a lot less likely to shock myself, which I have done it a few times. I was working on Terminator 2 one time, and I stuck my head in there working on the light board. It had a loose connector, and I was wiggling it around, and I got my head against these two guys. There's no high power cutoff on there, and the lights went out in my shop, but I'm pretty sure the lights didn't go out in my shop. It just blackened, and boy, I got the burn, and I got out of there a lot quicker than I went in. It's like, ouch. Yeah, we'll do that with the power off next time.
We won't do that again.
That's right. I wish I could say that, but experience is a great thing because it enables you to recognize a mistake when you make it again, right? So here is the underside of our playfield. This is the mechanism for that moving target, moving back and forth. You got your flippers, you got your ball chops, a lot of the same things in auto launch that we've had on our other two games. Slingshots. You recognize the magnets, the poles that go through the playfield, the ones that are completely underneath the playfield and just mess with the ball without having a big hole in the playfield. We have this is the foam scoop over here, so the ball drops under here, drops into this scoop eject, which kicks it around in that circular arc and pops it back up onto the playfield. We've got a subway underneath where the ball can come in at Bob's trap door up here underneath the upper and left ramps. That's this mechanism here. Some of you own a fun house would recognize that. It's virtually the same thing. So Bob can drop in at the SIM card is right here, this middle area here, so it can drop in the middle here, and everything's going to roll downhill from there. So these optos are what's telling it where the ball is. So if the ball comes through here, it'll hit this opto pair and it knows it made the SIM card shot. If the ball comes in the trap door, it'll make these opto, and so it knows it came in the trap door. If it came in just the scoop, there's a pair of optos here which tells it that it made the scoop shot. If the ball comes through and goes all the way down there, you also use this one to know when it's ready to be kicked back out onto the playfield when it's finished, settled, and set into the bottom of the scoop there. So, any point anybody has a question, just ask me. We can nerd out on this. I could go until midnight or the day after tomorrow or something. But I do have a plane though, so.
Oh, just a question on the optos. Are they designed similar to Williams or similar to Stern?
Similar to Williams. And in fact, if you look at the vertical up kickers on the Hobbit and Wizard of Oz, this game has no vertical up kicker, but if you look on the vertical up kickers there, they actually are those black and white transmit receive opto boards that you're familiar with from the Williams days. We've gone to where they attach in different mechs. We've gone to a different version of that, but these little black guys here, and I can probably show that with the camera still on there. You see the little black things right here next to my finger. That is a transmit opto because it's got black and red wires going to it. On its opposite side is the receive, which has green and white wires going to it, but it also has the same shape to it. So they're not different color now, but it's doing the same thing, and you tell which one is which by their factory made with the wires going up into them, and we just buy them with a long braid on them, and then we can add connectors to the end and do different things with it. So our opto boards, our opto controller boards are mounted on the top of that mechanism there. Those two boards that you see in the picture there are opto boards. And so there's that color coding I was telling you about. You can get in close here. The connectors are all color coded on this. So there's a black and there's a brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, which is basically the resistor color code. And if you look into the manual, I can,
Crazy!
Oh. That is crazy. Now, how do I get out of this guy? Go back there.
I'll tap to switch applications.
Okay, I think I can do that. So this is version 1.0 of the manual here. Wow, one of them tap pad things.
Yeah.
Struggling through this as best I can. So if I go down to section C in the manual here, and I go to where all the
Full color manual.
yeah, so all these color codes now in this manual mean something now too. So we've done the same sort of things. The very first connector on a board coming off for RGB LED control starts with a black arrow, which is or black line wire, which is going to control this particular light. A brown stripe on that wire would be actually with RGB LEDs we use black brown for the base colors of the wires. So the black train arrow RGB LED would have to have 4 wires. It has to have a black power wire, and then a black red stripe, a black blue stripe, a black green stripe for the R, G, and B. When you go to general illumination, we use gray as the base color, and then we just use the stripe as the driver color. So black, red, orange, yellow, green, blue would all be the different single wires that would control a GI LED, which only has one LED inside. So there's similar drawings. I was thinking I had the opto one in here, but I don't just yet. I added that the other day. But there's an opto listing in there of all the different opto wiring, and you just go in and it'll show you black, brown. So if any of these come undone and you can't identify the color on here, you can just look at the manual and it'll tell you which ones to plug in where. So all of these are transmit receive pairs. So they have 4 wires coming out of them. I'm going to switch back to you.
I'll tap. Oh, yeah.
Looking at the ceiling here. I couldn't do that if I wanted to. You see all the black and green and red and white wires coming out of there? They're all going to opto somewhere on the playfield. So if something is not working, that's your first check to make sure this hasn't come loose, or that the opto itself, which is an infrared beam basically. So the transmit receive the transmitter's not working, you're not gonna get a good opto connection if something has come loose and the transmitter's not pointing at the receiver anymore. All kinds of different things that can go on there. Sorry if I'm making you guys busy with all that. So if you can see all the RGB LED boards on here too. All the great big green boards are RGB LED boards. And you can see them all changing color now.
I got it.
You got it?
What's the matter?
We had a whale over here. No
The
problem.
camera actually has microphones either side of the camera. He's holding two microphones there.
And then Dave, of course, our audio guy. Wow. Okay, that's good comic relief, right? So if you look around the edge, you see that the lights around the edge are lit up in just white. So these are our GI LEDs. And that is a very, very tiny board that does the GI LED, but it is connectorized. It's not just soldered on there. That's a cheaper way of doing it, but you can actually, if you need to take these targets out of here and work on them, and you don't want to be pulling and tugging on this, you can just disconnect this little guy and work on it, and then put it back when you're done. So everything's nice and connectorized. And if you go back to where those controllers are, they're down here at the bottom of the playfield. So that's what these two big boards are right here. Get this right. So this is the RGB LED controller board, and this one actually controls a bunch of little single boards, which are on the top side of the playfield, namely on either side of the ramps. So those are all little bitty. Just hold it for me for a second. Most of the RGB LED boards are those big boards underneath the playfield. But on this game, we wanted to be able to have color on the ramps, any color we wanted. So all of these little lights here are single GI boards, and they're not much bigger than that tiny little GI board I was showing you a minute ago. This is an RGB GI, whereas the GI LED is a white LED. This one can be any color. So that RGB LED controller board controls all the lights on these two ramps.
Those lights are not there on the standard, right?
Right. It's an LE and CE only feature. So we have another ramp. And instead of selling you a game that has a ramp with a bunch of holes in it, we have a different ramp with no holes in it, so that your LE or your standard game doesn't look like it's missing something. So we have what we call a bus and GI controller board. That's down here on the bottom. I'll get this name right. And that one controls all the GI, and you see all the gray wires coming off of that board. Those are all the little ones that are color-coded. They have a little tiny stripe on them of blue or a green or a yellow or red, and those all correspond to what you saw on those tables in the manual. So the hardware order is just there's chips that drive these on the board, and the hardware order that you see in the game when you go into diagnostics is just which chip connects to which of the lights. But most of the RGB LEDs on the game, there's a single, I'm going to do that over and over again, sorry. But there's a single RGB LED board like the ones on Hobbit right there. Other than that, I think every single RGB LED under the playfield for inserts is using connected to one of these big boards. We've got, Hobbit has a different lighting system than Wizard of Oz. You all know the Wizard of Oz lighting issues that we've had. So we came out with a new Oz 2.0 lighting that has Hobbit style lighting, and dialed in is like tweaked a little bit more. So Hobbit was single boards, double boards, triple boards, and they were ran all over the place. Lots of wires. If you look underneath the Hobbit playfield, lots of wire. This is much more elegant because it's easier to make little boards with these arms and things sticking out on them to make them longer and reach to places rather than running a wire across there and having extra connectors and all that kind of stuff that could go wrong. And all of the comms is then taken care of with the first RGB LED board in the series here. So the bag board gets controlled USB from the computer, and it talks over these Ethernet cables, which you see running all the way up here and to here, and then this comes off like a spider, all the different legs of the other major RGB LED boards. So if one of these were out, then it could be just because this was disconnected. And what it'll do is go with the last good value that it had, so it would freeze up and lock up. And that's how you would know something was disconnected. It could be disconnected at either place. But this is basically just a big place to, junction for everything to come to, and then one connection back to the bus going to these boards in the bottom. So we have a couple of motors in the game. We have a motor to move this guy back and forth. I can go in here and show you. We have device tests for major devices on there, on the game. So this is the, make sure I get the right place here. There it is. So there's the moving target mechanism and how it works under the plate here. So it's turning a motor around and around, and it just gets to a point where it goes all the way to the left. And you hear the blinking sound. That's when each of the little arms that you see sticking out here, these little tabs go back and forth to a U-shaped opto that you see on the end here. Right in there. So that tab comes and breaks the beam in between there, tells it that the target's all the way to the left. On the other side, it has one that brings it all the way to the right, and lets it know that it's all the way to the right. But the target itself is kind of an elegant thing that it doesn't have to have a motor direction to it. You just continue turning it to make it go either direction. That's kind of a cool design. And it's a simple 12-volt motor that we can control. That's what these colors here. That wire there with a black stripe on it is telling us that goes back to the first wire on the yellow connector there. This is the power wire. This is the trigger wire. And again, the colored band on there tells us on the driver board. You see the brown and red, or brown and black going here. These are two different drivers and the power that goes to them. So that's what every color under this playfield means something. It's there for a reason. We have the major power going to all the different coils. You've got blues. We've got a light blue color here. We've got oranges going up to here. That's a whole different string of power. Come down to the browns down here on the pop bumpers. There's a power wire. They're daisy chained from one to the next, just like Williams and all does it. If that were to come loose, you wouldn't have any power to the next coil in the line or any beyond it. So like I say, all the colors mean something. You'll see the stripes of the wire colors here, the green, blue, and white, violet. That tells us we're in the switch matrix. If we're going to the switch matrix here, there's our matrix switches, right? So if I look at, make sure I'm looking at the right color, green, blue, and white, violet. If I come up here and look at the green, blue, and the white, violet, where they come together, should be the skill shot kicker. And that's what this switch is right here. There's the skill shot kicker right there that's kicking the ball with. And this is the switch. Drop my finger, sorry. I'll forget that too. Oh, technology, don't you love it? So there's the skill shot kicker is this guy here. And that switch there is what tells the game that there's a ball sitting on the switch and being ready to be kicked out, and that's if you make the skill shot. And what is a skill shot, you ask? Well, there is actually on the game a little hiding place. Any of you played Funhouse before? Oh yeah? I like to use balls that come out. But it doesn't come out catastrophic. So in Funhouse, you shoot the ball up behind the kid's head, right?
Yeah.
For a skill shot. Same sort of thing here. We got our playfield block still on here. We'll take this shipping block off. So where's the skill shot up here? It's right in here. You see where it says skill shot in the corner there? Comes around here and you drop it in behind the pop bumpers. And that little kicker right there. So what you're doing basically is launching the ball. If you launch it really hard, it comes up, it goes around, and it comes through this crossover ramp and down again. I'm not doing that very well, sorry about that.
There was a timeline on the camera, so.
I have to go very slowly. So the ball comes around the top and it comes down this crossover ramp if you can launch it really hard. And that gives you a shot with your flipper. That's sometimes desirable. The skill shot is to drop it off the top of there into this corner into here, and it drops in behind here and then drops into the pop bumpers and comes back down a little less of a guarantee. You're going to have control of it when it comes down. So, the other thing that we've done differently, if you look underneath the play field, you can do it one hand, but white test. So down in the bottom of the cabinet, I don't know how many of you saw Wizard of Oz or Hobbit. There's a big metal box down here that had all of our boards in it. They're not there anymore. Where did they go, Gabe? In the head, or the back box as we call it. We got so many little terms, and then you get going with different guys from different companies. The way that a pop bumper is what we call it. You got jets, you got thumper bumpers, you got super jets, you got crazy things like that. Different names that everybody has. You got to come up with a convention. Our convention is pop bumper. And then I have to beat these guys over the head to use the convention all the time. Go with what they grew up with, So we want to be consistent. Let's do a little bit of more back here in the back end here. I'll show you some of the tests and things. So if we go. You want to hold this for me for a minute, kid? Maybe you can get a lot less wiggling around, but just kind of show the play field in general here. You can look right here and see what you're seeing. It doesn't point where you think it does, I'll tell you that much, right? And I'm looking at there, I'm pointing at this, that's great. So if I want to look at my lights, for instance, the LEDs, we have an ordered test here, and what it's going to do now is going to one light at a time, and what you'll see when I get to one that's not used, there's the first one. And it shows on the play field up here where that light should be. Up here on the screen too. Look up here, my finger, there you go. Follow my finger. Now you gotta freeze for like 30 seconds. You'll see the light blinking up there. It's telling you where that light's supposed to be. Now that's going to show you where on the play field to look for a blinking light. I can take that one light and change it different colors. I can go around, move around the play field to all the different lights. And I'm doing general illumination right now. So this is ordered GI. It's ordered tests, and the general illuminations are the first ones. Then come our RGB LEDs, which are now down here starting around the phone. That's where RGB LEDs come in. I can move that around. I can light them all up at once. If I just go into the all LED test, I can make sure that they're all doing what they're supposed to by changing all the color. Go from blue to green to red. Make sure I don't see any outliers here that are still green when they're supposed to be red, or blue when they're supposed to be white, that sort of thing. So all the different, I can look at just GI only, which is all around the edges of the play field. You see everything in the middle with dark. And I can basically change it controls their intensity basically when I change the value of the feed to it. Where it's saying it's red now, it's actually just a dimmer white because they're just LEDs, white LEDs. LED amp flashers now, everything that is controlled on the play field here is flashing. We do have flashers in the game again now. We've got an RGB beacon over here on the side. And this guy can do all kinds of different colors and different things. Not just, there's actually 4 LEDs inside there, so it can chase and do all these neat lighting fence. You're going to device test. We got your ball trough test. You've got a magnet test where you can test the magnet down here. Down here, the magnet underneath the theater. That's what that one's doing there. You're going to toss a ball up in there. It's going to grab it and then pitch it up. And you can adjust how well it grabs or how fast or hard it throws the ball up into the top of the play field. You know, statue diverter, which is Betty over here in the corner. I can just check, make sure that that thing's working, make sure her arm's going up and down like it should. You're also getting the down position. When it hits the bottom there, it's actually clicking on a micro switch, and then you know that the position is down and you're reading it as such. At the moving target I showed you earlier. And on the top, that's what it looks like. You're just moving this little guy back and forth. You've got camera there. And you can see the camera on the camera with the camera being projected on the. Wow, that's really. But we can again do the tracking sensitivity and adjust things so that it knows to recognizes the facial features and you can tell it it's darker in this room or something like that, and you can bump that sensitivity up so that it actually sees faces. And you can actually photobomb somebody in selfie mode. You just get over there, look over their shoulder. Sometimes it'll recognize your face instead of theirs. So yeah, that's kind of cool. There's a trap door one that lets us open. So if I were to hit enter, it's supposed to open the trap door. Well, I have the high voltage disabled. There is a cheat switch here though that I can pull out and make it believe that the coin door is closed. Now I can open the trap door, which is way back up under here. And then close it. And it tells you all the switches up here on the screen, all the switches that are involved with the box trap door. So you can drop a ball down there, make sure it sees it. Make sure it knows that the door's open, it knows that it's closed, and then anything that's broken would show up in red on there. And that broken is defined as not registering in about 30 games or so. Kind of the same benchmark that Williams used to use. Let's see. On coils, I can adjust all the coils strengths too, but I can test them here. I can test switches. Let's just go in order. The switch here. Here's our big matrix switch matrix. So any of the switches now I can test with I get an audio sound that the switch has been depressed. I get a green telling me the switch is made. So I have all these balls in the trough right now. You see that the optos are the brownish ones here. So a made opto switch will then turn into, like if I lock this guy right here, a made opto switch is just turning green. But when it's not being interrupted by the ball, then it's in this brown state. Anything that's a micro switch or a mechanical switch is going to be blue when it's not activated, and green when it is. Any questions on that? I'm boring you to death? Go deeper, go shallower. I'm open to suggestions. Dedicated switches. Dedicated switches. How many of you guys know how the matrix switches work in Williams games? You understand that concept. Why was that done? Save wiring, exactly. So instead of running, when I'm on 64 switches in my Williams game, I didn't have to run 64 pairs of wire out there to each one of those places where there was a switch. I could instead make a matrix out of it, and I would have 8 columns, and I would have 8 rows. And the row colored wires would be white with a certain colored stripe, that black, brown, red, orange, green, that kind of stuff. The green ones would also have that stripe also, so they would have column 1 would be black, column 2 would be brown, and so you'd have a green, black, green, brown. But all those switches then are matrixed. So when I go to, let me just show you that. We're already there, I think. So all of the way I run that then, we do the same thing as Williams does with our switches, except for we added 8 more columns, because some of the Wizard of Oz and Hobbit, we had a lot of switches to be able to do. So we can do 128 switches, not just 64. So if I run my green black wire, I come off the I/O board, which is now up in the back box, and I bring it down, And the first thing I'm going to run it to, well, let's just go with one of these that isn't an opto. It's a little less confusing. So if I go with my green and orange, green with an orange stripe, the first thing I run it to is the left slingshot. Then I run from the left slingshot high to the left slingshot low, and the left return lane 1 and 2. Then bob trap door open. So if I go open this play field up again, disable that. Gabe doesn't be showing something. Ah! All of a sudden, yeah, we don't want that, right? No accidents or anything like that. So if you look at that on the screen up here, we're going to go from the left slingshot high, left slingshot low. So this is our left side of the plate. It's from the player's perspective. You'll see up here that there's ground, green, orange wire going to left slingshot high, then it goes to the low, and then it jumps off here and it goes to those in lanes on the side there. You see this one wire. Hey, you're supposed to be helping me here.
You ain't gonna give me video.
Oh, come on. All right. No excuses now, Dave. So it comes up here, goes to the first switch. He runs off there to the second switch. Then the green orange goes to there. The green orange goes to here. And then green orange that is basically done, right? So we're at the end. I gotta go back again. I need 3 computers up there, Dave. Kind of a show you right here. Yeah, 2 projectors, 2 screens. Now I've got to woke it up again. So there it runs to all these switches, and it also runs to Bob's trap door over there and Light Big Bang. So those are down here on the other part of the play field. This is how you track things and find a problem. If I come up in that matrix and those 3 of the switches on the bottom aren't working for some reason, I can follow the wires here and figure it out. So this is Bob's trap door. There, look at there, green and orange running right there to the Bob's trap door switch, which is on this side over here. And I'm telling you whether the door's open or closed. And then it runs back and it goes up to somewhere else. So if that's just the column wire. Now if I go to the row there, at the intersection of green orange and white orange ought to be this left return lane 1, which is on this side over here. So I'm going to give Dave his video back so he doesn't whine. Okay. Now look at there, white orange, green orange. That's that switch right there. So if that switch were not working, if I was pushing on the top of the playfield and it clicked and all, it seemed like it ought to be working, I might check and see if one of these wires was broken off. If maybe this diode was broken, or if some brilliant repairman before me might have hooked the wires up incorrectly. You've seen that before too. And if you hook this one up incorrectly, it can cause many other switches in the game to not work right too. So it's hard to find the offending, the real culprit sometimes. But these are targets or switches. So here's white wires with red and brown stripes going to there, and a green, looks like a green, what would you say, Gabe? Yeah, that's green. He says, thanks. That's good.
What are the numbers on the board? What are the numbers on the board?
Numbers on what?
Black.
That somebody has written lot numbers on there. Something you shouldn't have to worry about. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, 1720 is a bad lot, then we would recall some of those and fix them. So, yeah, that's what that would be about. But we don't have the same thing on Wizard of Oz, with a long string like that of lights. So you don't have to have numbers on these boards. They're only going to go in one place in one way. Whereas we use the same GI board on Wizard of Oz all around the playfield.
Have you explained at all what these magnets do? When people play the game, they don't even know there's 4 magnets right there.
Okay, so if I look at the top of the playfield, there's 4 magnets there, right? You saw them. Now when I look up here, lo and behold, I only see 1 magnet, and that's the one over here, underneath the, around this way, just a little. There you go. This is a adjustable core magnet. It comes all the way through the playfield, and that's for grabbing the ball and holding it right there. So the pole of the magnet is sticking out of the top of the playfield, and when it's magnetized, it grabs the ball and holds it there. Or it can do things like this thing does, is chuck the ball around. So when one of these switches back behind here or behind here gets hit, it actually activates that magnet. The game knows that the ball's right next to the rubber, so it activates this magnet behind it. Well, what's the ball going to do? It's going to be flung in that direction. So you can get all kinds of really cool effects off of a magnet in the playfield, properly tuned and properly triggered. So where are the three in the center? Well, you guys have played Adam's Family and seen what's in Adam's Family, right? 3 magnets in a triangle pattern here. Well, when I have 2 or 3 different magnets there and there's wood in between now, I can't grab the ball maybe so hard that I can stop it on the play field, but I can still affect its travel quite a bit. So you turn magnets on, 2 or 3 of them, you see on the witch, when you hit the witch and the ball goes around, that's 2 magnets under there that are kicking it around in Wizard of Oz. You got 3 of them in here. So during gameplay, if you've got multi-ball going, chances are there's a real good chance there's going to be balls rolling around the center of the playfield. Any of those magnets triggered are going to affect all of those balls, so they can pitch things, they can throw them, they can send them up to the top of the playfield, pull them down. You have another magnet up here underneath the theater that again can grab the ball. And Dave, you know some really cool things that they're going to use that for in the future. You want to share with us a little bit?
The future, it's done.
Oh,
No, I'll tell you what, I mean, that's where all the virtual targets go.
virtual targets. What the heck does that mean?
Well, there are no spinners on dialed in. There are no drop targets on dialed in. There's no bash target on dialed in. But yes, there are, because there are virtual versions of all those things. You qualify them in the theater. So the magnet, the theater right now, you can see the Jersey Jack logo,
Spinning around.
but you
yep.
can see the light behind it. So that's a baby version of Pinball 2000,
Yes, it is.
right? Actually, my personal opinion is that's the way to do it right. Instead of taking over the top third of the playfield, you can have a really cool set of virtual targets that just occupies one lane. So at different points when these things are qualified, and you do that by doing lots of lanes at the bottom, they bring up a set of inline drop targets inside that theater.
Made where the Jersey Jack symbol is now rotating, you would see 3 or 4 targets.
Yeah. Another one is they put up a spinner in there. So now we have drop targets, now we have a spinner. There's another one which is a bash target, which is, there's a theme in the game of trains running around. So they put a commuter train comes into the theater and stops, and then you bash it, and as you bash it, the doors get deformed to expose your points.
You
So
have virtual like sound and spinner like when you're
yeah. There's sounds. Yeah, it's my job to make all those virtual things seem like they're real things.
That
So-
and the magnet. The magnet's going to be the other part. And what happens when you hit a drop target? Ball bounces back at you, right? So we can make it look like the drop target's hit and falls on the screen, but the magnet grabs the ball at the same time and then drops it. For a spinner, you leave the magnet alone. Just let it fly through there and spin as fast as
Oh yeah, and there's one other. There's a virtual Newton ball
Yep, there you go.
thing inside the theater that's themed with the drones. So when you get that puppy enabled, it shows you a pair of balls, and when the ball goes in there, the virtual balls do a Newton thing, and they hit a drone in the background, which starts spinning and making drone
So
sounds.
you do the ball clicking noise.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, actually, I had to get some balls. I have balls, and I had to record them. So those are my balls that are recorded, guys. And so yeah, I had to. When you're trying to make a virtual thing seem real, you got to start from reality. So I did. So I think that's one of the coolest features of this game, which you don't get right away. You have to qualify these things by playing it right and making a bunch of lane shots and stuff. It's 3 times for almost everything.
They have a name for that, by the way, when you record your balls. That's called pornography. Okay?
Thanks.
Is there any type of jackpot shot in that theater? Like, is it anything light up for jackpot?
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
one of them for the selfie, too. You shoot through there, it
Yeah.
triggers a selfie.
The
A lot of
theater's
different
used a lot. I mean, okay, so those 4 virtual devices are theater things, but there's a spider in the game. Butch, would you like to say why there's a spider in the game?
Why is there a spider?
Well, that's my answer. I don't know why, but there is a giant spider in the game.
By golly, there it is.
Yeah,
right
show
there.
the target. So there's a stand-up target for the
Yes,
spider. Every time you hit that target, a virtual spider is like going up and down inside the theater, and you hit him for big points. When you hit the guy going back and forth, he's actually got a name, QED, Quantum Electric Dude.
Dude.
Yeah. So when you hit QED,
Such a name.
you get this like electric thing inside the quantum theater, which is worth points too. So if you saw the game at Expo, there was like the Einstein Theater, which could be called the Einstein Theater because it was copyright infringement, blah, 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 and it wasn't used for very much. Now with finished software, there's about 9 different things going on in this virtual area that are very, very cool.
And the bash target, all the virtual things, the magnet is very heavily used along with the opto switches underneath that theater to make that work properly. You got to know that the ball's there, and then be able to grab it, and then either pitch it back up to the top or let it just drop.
Well, 9 times out of 10 they want it to go up because that's early when it wasn't programmed properly, that was like a drain of death from the top, from the theater
what happens
directly.
When you grab a ball in the center of the play field and then release it? Yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, that was very bad. But properly tuned with the right software, it almost always throws the ball the other way, and so it goes into the pops and you get to play with it.
And that's an adjustment that you can change and make it more
Should your
strong.
local gravity be different than...
Yeah, exactly. Should your game be set up too steep or something like that too. So, back to switches then for a second, if you go back up to the screen up here. So, there are a bunch of switches in the game where it is desirable to run what we call dedicated switches. So these switches do now have a wire run directly from the I/O board up to a switch like the start button here, or the plumb bob tilt that's up under here, or a lot of these things you see they're in the cabinet.
Overlook any plug bob contacts.
Yes, and a lot of times the plumb bob will come up and tell you it's broken. Why is that?
Hasn't been used.
It hasn't been activated in 30 games, right? So these are dedicated switches. That's the difference between dedicated and matrix switches. Matrix switches are in that big matrix, and they're primarily under the play field and around there. And the dedicated switches are a lot of your cabinet switches, and they actually have a dedicated ground running to them directly from the I/O board. So you're not worried too much about running the wire that goes all the way down here to the coin door, because you're not going to run 5 times that much wire down there. So if we go back out of here, you can go into single switches and look at those. You can go into coils, and we can it's set to begin with on manual. So the very first thing it wants is it's waiting for you to trigger it. So when you trigger it with the start button. Now the left pop upper is, as shown here, is a 70 volt coil. So a 70 volt needs to have power. So I'm going to power this guy up. And now when I push the start button, and I can't burn it up by holding it, and you'll trigger one time and it'll stop. Right? You don't want that to come on and stay on like that, because you can burn something up. Because what's happening on all those coils, right? How's a coil work? The coil's a bunch of wires wound around a bobbin and with leads on it. You apply power to one side, and when you trigger them with a transistor, you provide a path to ground through the other side. And that allows a tremendous amount of current to flow, because it's basically almost a short. When you put so many coils through that, you do have some resistance, and that keeps things from burning up. But when you burn up, any of you know that when you burn up a coil, the transistor is dead. The coil and the transistor are both gone. You replace the coil, and the dead transistor will kill the coil again. You replace the coil, and the dead transistor will kill the coil again. It'll do all these things because they're interrelated. And generally, when one of them fails, it's going to go to short. And short is a bad thing because that allows all that current to go with nothing to stop it, except for breaking the circuit, which usually happens with a fuse blowing and/or enough carbon building up that the circuit can't function anymore, or it burns so hot that it snaps and comes apart and no current can go. All bad things, and you all know that smell too when that happens. So I can move around here to different, if I suspect that my left flipper is not working, the hold part of it, I can do this, I can test it. And even the hold isn't going to kick the flipper up there very hard, but it's going to hold it in position once it's up there. So the flipper has parallel wound coils. It's got a kick coil, power coil, and a hold coil. They're just like the old Williams coil. So they have 3 lugs on them. So there's one of the lugs has both of those, the very thick wire. You want fewer turns of very thick wire to go very fast and allow that coil to kick and kick that flipper up there really strong. then you want a bunch more windings of much thinner wire, higher resistance, that are gonna, now I can switch, once I get up to the top of my stroke, I can switch to the hold part, and I can let current run through that for a longer period of time without burning anything up. Otherwise, if you try to hold your flipper in using the kick one, you're gonna burn the coil up really fast. So what happens there, the end of stroke switch, which we can show you under here. Flipper end of stroke switch, right there, when the flipper gets to the end of its stroke, it closes the switch here. That tells the computer to switch between the power and the hold part of this coil. And there's the three lugs I was talking about. Pardon me?
70 volts is still.
Yes, it's still, yeah. You're supposed to help me out. Now, you got no excuse there. Watch it, look. No, you were waiting with the camera. Yeah, watch this. Yeah, so, other things under the play field that are controlled, the motors are controlled all that same way. You have a power here for your flipper coil. You have an independent hold and power. And if you look real close at the wires underneath here, you'll see the different strengths of wire. You can see them there. See the thicker one is in the center, and then the thinner one is out here towards the end. The thinner one is the hold, the thicker one is the power. So what happens if this little wire breaks right there and it's not making contact with that lug anymore? You can have all the power in the world coming to this coil. You can have all the connectivity going back to there, perfectly good transistor at the other end of it, trying to trigger it. But if that little wire is broken right there, there's no hold. And what your flipper will do, go fuck and fall back down, fuck, fall back down.
You say,
I said whack. It's kind of like a duck with a lisp. Whack, whack. Stay with me, kid. Come on. Let's do this. All the coils here, the magnets, again, same thing. You got an orange power one, you got an orange black triggering it. On this one over here, you've got a brown, a tan one, and a tan red triggering that magnet. You just follow the connectors here to figure out, get back to the trunk, and that's where all the colored wires are that go up to the head and to the driver board. So let's look at where those go in the back box. I know someone was getting ready to ask that. So, how do we open the back box? Same way we all open it. Keys that hopefully someone put back last time. The right key, that's the other thing, yeah. Wouldn't that be fun?
Are there more keys in the box?
Sure is. Yeah, that does not have that number on it. Who would have figured those ones? There. I know which way it should go, that's a good thing. So upright is locked, turn to the right, and it's gonna unlock it. I'm gonna wiggle this guy back up out of there. Here, slide a little bit. It's always good to keep your glass in the same place. Don't put your back glass over here and your playfield glass over there, because you're gonna hit one of them. Okay, so here's the back box of the game now. So we got these little things here that I can hopefully turn on the way. So these are just shipping blocks. And what they do is rotate down and hold this main latch into place. And there's one on either side. So when the back box's head is down and you're vibrating and it's kind of running downhill, that those latches don't get tripped by just gravity and the monitor trying to pull up on them, and they just give them, and the LCD would smash into the back of your back glass. That wouldn't be a good thing. So I'm gonna back in here for a lever. Not much room there to speak of that. No, not much room at all. So I disconnect both sides, and out comes my monitor. I can twist it around. So now I can see my monitor a little bit over to the one side. I can twist it this way, put it on the opposite side. If I'm working on this side of the game, twist back this way. I'm going to go which way gravity wants to keep it. So on this side. So I'm going to step around here with Dave. So there's our driver board. So every one of these little silver tip babies here is a field effect transistor. And those transistors are going to drive something in the game. Anything that kicks, that moves, motors, lights, magnets, solenoids, all those sorts of things. Every single one of these is a kicker for those. So there's a bunch of them available in our games. We have unused ones on dialed in. You can see some of the connectors here aren't used. Some of the connectors aren't full. These would have a full 10 wires or 9 wires in them, power and 8 triggers. If it was being used completely, like this guy is right here, so there's just one left, and that's the key. So you've got a yellow, you've got a yellow black, yellow brown, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, all the way across. Whenever your stripe would match your wire color, like a yellow here, use a gray stripe on it instead. So your yellow gray stripe as opposed to a yellow with a yellow stripe. In terms of terminology here. All of your fuses back here, you can see them in the corner over here. There's main fuses here that trip or that control several of these vanes here. So one of those back there is a higher current fuse, and it'll control several lines, branches that come out into here and run different connectors on the game. So if you've got, there's a nice power. The first thing when someone tells me one of my coils isn't working, the first thing I go to in the manual is at the very end of section D, and it's a fused power stream. There it is. Okay, so now there's those fuses I was talking about that handle different branches here. So this one 701 fuse, if that's out, all 3 of these lines and all of these devices are dead. If this one is out, but this one is good, then all of this is working, all of this is working, and all of these in the center are dead. So first thing I do when someone calls me, and I get a lot of calls from customers and things having a little problem here or there, and they'll say, my left flipper's not working. And then I say, well, is the right flipper working? And if they say yes, then I know, well, okay, well, it's probably not a fuse problem, because if the right flipper's working, it's on the same chain here as the left flipper. So it's not a fuse causing the problem, or it would cut power to all 3 flippers in this game. Different areas here, colors of wire are different voltages in some cases. You see the gray down here is running down for 12 volt. So a lot of motors, relays, spotlights, LEDs, that kind of thing there. Up in the top here, or up towards the top a little more, the 20 volt is a yellow wire coming in here. And then all of these are running off of these colored wires coming out of there. So if I go back to the driver board over here, put gate back to work, this one asleep. So we have, in this corner over here, we have plum colored wires, and light blue wires, or blue wires. We have light blue ones over here, we have yellow. So all the yellow ones in that picture just a minute ago were 12 volt ones. So these are all, I'm sorry, these guys over here are all different power levels. So you're going to use more voltage, you're going to use more current, likely too. You're going to use thicker wires. So some of these are thinner wire, some are thicker wire. Some of these are dedicated switches in this direction. That's what I'm looking at now, I'm sorry. In this corner over here are dedicated switches. Ignore that. These are our drivers here. These are our drivers up here. So these connectors across to here, all the ones that are aligned with the transistors are drivers. My bad on this. These are dedicated switches.
What is that blinking?
What is that blinking light? Which one? This one here? That's telling me I have good communication. So I'm actually running, my pick in here is running, and things are talking and answering the way they should. And a comms light blinks on and off to let me know that this driver board is communicating with the CPU board, and things are doing what they're supposed to.
So if that stops blinking, then what?
If that stops blinking, that won't be your first indication. If something's not working on your game, will be your, like it won't start up, it won't boot. I have no lights, that sort of thing. So,
Question. Why is it double fused?
You mean the stream?
Yeah.
Down? Why is one fuse downstream for another fuse?
yes, that's you know, like I said, the first fuse in the line is a higher. I've struggled with that myself a little bit. To tell you the truth, you know, I'm not going to make an answer up for you, but the best I can figure is that you want not everything to go out. I think they were wanting to not lose all 70 stuff. So they branched them out, and then they had different branches that were controlled by or supplied by more main fuses. But it is a redundant sort of thing. Yes.
Rating and 3 coming
Yes.
off it?
Yes. 3 times plus.
Right. So how could this one ever go and not take out fuse 3 first?
It has happened.
Might be less than the sum of 3, I suppose.
Yeah. Every time, when you think of a slow blow fuse, every time something's activated through it, it'll allow it to overdraw current
Right.
briefly, very briefly. But every time it does that, it weakens a little bit. So sometimes a slow blow fuse will just go, and you replace the fuse, and you're like, what caused that to go? Everything's working, nothing's smoking. Sometimes those fuses, they just have been overcurrented a few times, too many, and so you're allowing the 3 minor fuses behind a major fuse, or in front of a major fuse, to overdraw a little bit, and then 3 of them could be running things like pop bumpers and flippers and all during multi-ball and all that. You could very easily overdraw this big one a little bit too, so it can every once in a while give up if it goes too. Hey, you're supposed to hold the camera.
What are the differences between the prototype and
I wish I had a better answer for you, but what's that?
the differences between the prototype everybody's been playing and the production machine? Are there some differences that they changed in the production?
Prototype games, I've noticed since the start that some of these inserts around here have changed a little bit. The lock used to be up here, I think, and this one used to be something else. There were different labels on some of these things. The poor John Yossi misspelled Armageddon the first time, so he put only 1 D in there. So there's another change that for the production. We got his spelling corrected. And I see, looking through the ramp back here, that he changed the other one that I caught too. He had no trespassing back there with just 2 S's and trespassing instead of 3.
The station changed too, right?
Yeah, the station changed. That's another significant change. They redid the station. Let's see, what else? Like Dave was saying, the reality theater was an Einstein theater before, so it's now quantum reality theater for licensing type reasons. Someone was saying, oh, you can't use that now. I know that the production games have a spotlight here for Betty so that she lights up back there, and that wasn't in the production, or in the prototype games. Let's see, what else did we have? I know Pat tweaked a lot of things. The production games, he actually beveled the holes. So the play fields are beveled here and down here by where the ball, to try and reduce the chipping on the play field.
They did add some Mylar, right? Correct?
And we've also put Mylar on those too. We're gonna make some metal protectors for those.
Where else is there Mylar?
There's Mylar over the top of this magnet right here. Over to the top of this magnet back here. Where the ball drops off of should be one here. I guess I didn't put one here. I would put one here. Add one there to your game too if you can. It's always a good idea to have them around these switches and all too where they drop off. I'm not sure we don't have those on there. It's not a bad idea to put them there too. Any place the ball can drop, any place where there's a magnet. And we're going to add some Mylar around these holes here to help protect the edges of those a little better too. Now remember, everything can be controlled, customized. You can turn the power up on all your coils. If I go into my coil test here, we go into settings, go into coil settings here. Now if I go through any of these now, I can say, well, I'm on my upper flipper, we found out is a little too powerful at 21, and it bashes the crap out of things in this short area up here. So what we're doing now is putting it at 15, anything that's off of factory defaults is turned to a red color. Everything else is green in the list as you go through it. So with this, being able to control how long kickers kick and how long pop bumpers pull in and how strong, you know, everything's pulse width modulated. So you're turning power on and off very quickly. You give it full power by never turning it off, right? When it says on, you give it full power. What happens with pulse width modulation is then there's an off time too. So if I were at 50%, when I told it to kick, I'd turn it on for half the time, off for half the time, on and off, and it would be this big square wave. As I increase the on time and decrease the off time, things would get like, you know, my off time much smaller, or if I decrease my on time and increase my off time, I get weaker kick. So that pulse width thing is going on all the time. And you're allowed to go on a flipper up to like 32. I mean, that's very strong. You can punch right through the back of, you know, make a new theater drive-through if you want to, if you're gonna do that. You can smash the heck out of targets. This is a steel ball against wood and plastic. You know what's gonna win, right? So, you know, with that in mind, I need to make sure as I customize my game, if I like it, if I need, you know, to make this upper ramp better, it's not make that flipper stronger to do that. It's learn to play a little better maybe, right? Time that shot better. It's not always a matter of strength. If I can't get it up the ramp, it's because I probably grazed one side or the other with the ball as it started to go up. It's not because it didn't have enough strength, because it didn't go up all the way. I just need to hit it more squarely and not hit anything on the way up. So keep all that in mind, that if you're gonna turn up the power on a lot of your coils, you're gonna increase the playfield wear, because slings kicking harder, pop bumpers kicking harder, flippers kicking harder. It's just making matters worse. The playfield and the plastic things you're gonna lose already. You're just speeding it up a bit. But there it is, to be able to fine tune your game. If you wanna tip the playfield up really steep and add a couple more points, you know, do things incrementally. Don't go in here and change my flipper from 21 up to 32 right away. You know, I want to see what happens. Well, we did that because we're engineers and we can do that. When you break a sling plastic within like 30 seconds. It really happens that way. So, like I said early on, make sure everything is tight. If you notice anything, watch when other people play. And if the pop bumper cap is you know, flopping around a little bit, something's wrong. That's not tight, and it needs to be tightened. If a pop bumper switch is bad, a pop bumper has a ring and rod assembly. It has these rods coming through the playfield that are attached, which you can show all this again. One side. Yeah. Gosh, I can't get the back lights off, but you can put the monitor in, right? How about that? So here's the bottom part of a pop bumper. It's got two rods that go through the playfield and connect to a big ring. The ring has a mushroom shape to it, so it's kind of on an angle like that. When the pop bumper kicks, this pulls in. You decide on your settings how long you hold that in, how fast you kick it in. So it's a matter of, with pop bumpers, you remember the old Williams, how many of you guys remember the Williams switch triggered solenoids, or special solenoids they call them? What's the difference with the special solenoids and the regular solenoids? Anybody? Switch triggered ones were something that if something's on you, the ball's on you like a sling, it's very important that it kicks quickly. You don't want to kick after the ball's bounced off the rubber, right? You don't want to kick after the ball's bounced off the pop bumper and moved somewhere else. It's something that even early on, they said, even with a computer, I still don't trust it to be fast enough, so I want to trigger those with a switch. When the switch powers, the thing kicks, and no computer in between to slow things down. But we still have some of that even left over in our new games, because we actually control the power differently for those two types of coils. For switch triggered things like that, things where I wanted something instantaneous, I'm going to tell this guy, and we'll put this down to show you. I'm going to tell the game here to kick amount of time in milliseconds. I'm not going to pulse width modulate the power there. I'm going to give it full blast power for 22 milliseconds. and that's going to cause it to kick and pull in really fast. If I increase that to like 40 milliseconds, I'm providing a lot more power, and it'll kick a lot harder. If I give it less milliseconds, then I can get to the point where I almost don't even pull the solenoid completely closed. Slingshots and pop bumpers are still figured that way. Everything else is pulse width modulated. So I'm giving it a time here, and I'm giving it a proportionate strength here. With 1 being low, 32 being my max. So it's a difference there, and that's just kind of a leftover artifact of still not trusting computers quite as much, and it's a follow through from the special solenoids back in the wing. Back to the pop bumper. So the pop bumper pulls in, does that underneath the play field. On top of the play field, it brings this metal rod down. And what triggers it all? This switch right here. So if I go into my switch test, matrix switches, and I just barely press that off of center, that skirt, I get a center pop bumper trigger there. What's happening? Underneath the play field, this switch right here, that the skirt has a big long knob that goes through the play field into this cup, and when it moves from side to side, it forces these two contacts together. So you want to make those very sensitive. If one of those is broken, then a pop bumper can't protect itself. So when it's up there, when the pop bumper's kicking the ball, what does it do when it kicks the ball off itself? It hits it into another pop bumper, right? Generally, because they're in a triangle formation here. So if one of these pop bumpers has a broken switch, it can get pounded to death by the other two pop bumpers in short order. So you need to make sure you watch that. And if your pop bumpers don't trigger when they're hit, you need to fix the switch and make sure it's working correctly. Because the pop bumper won't know to trigger and pull that ring down and push the ball away and protect itself, because it's really supposed to happen very fast so that the ball doesn't smash into the body of the pop bumper. And if everything gets loose, then yeah, things start to break really quick. So you want to make sure everything's working. Keep an eye on those sorts of things. Stay on top of your game. As you well know, you have your first pinball machine, you have your first broken pinball machine pretty quick thereafter. So and we are very fortunate with our games that people are very willing to tinker and learn, and they're fascinated with this stuff. And if you'll get on the phone and talk to me and tell me how to do it, yeah, I'll try it. Yeah, let's fix it. Not so with soldering circuit boards. Know your limitations, please. Don't listen to all those guys on Pinside that tell you, it's not, you don't want to pay somebody to do that, it's easy. Next thing you know, you've got things ripped out and burnt to a crisp, and you've got a much bigger, more expensive repair than you had to begin with.
Wait, can we do a time check, see how much longer people want to stay?
Absolutely.
So we've been an hour and a half. How many
so we
people want to keep going for another 4 hours? 3, 2?
What time's the next lecture?
I know that a lot of people that were in here to begin with have left, so that's a good indicator too.
Yeah, food would be good.
Yes.
Are we going to cater this?
That's Jack up there in the back.
It's tomorrow. Yeah, I guess I'll
Tomorrow
take
at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock tomorrow, the team, and Dave also has a seminar tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to wake you up with pinball sound.
That's right.
And,
So
you
if you
know-
party long, just stay the hell up. Come. If you don't look good at 10 a.m., I won't look good either, and it'll be just fine. Then at 11, go take a shower. So just party all the way through to 10. Show up here. It'll be great
And
fun.
don't feel like, Jack, myself, Dave, any of us that come here from the company are just here to do, are we off the clock, Dave? I'll see you next year. That we're here for the whole show. We want to talk to you. If you want to come up and ask any questions, I'd love to talk to you more about this. I could talk your ear off, I guarantee it. But yeah, as much as you guys want to listen, like I said, I think people get up and leave when they don't want to hear anymore. They've had enough. But
The mind can only endure what the seat, the mind can only absorb what the seat can endure.
there you go.
So,
So whatever you guys like. If you'd like to ask a question or talk about anything, any part of this system in particular, I'll be happy to jump into that.
yeah,
Yeah, there was a machine out there that was on tilt and it wouldn't reset or anything. What could that be?
It's like when the ball gets, when a game gets tilted, it's trying to kill the game, and then what happens? Kills all the flippers and everything. The ball should drain and come all the way back down. If for some reason, and a lot of times the tilt is caused by somebody trying to free up a stuck ball, and if they were not successful, the game sits there waiting for the ball to return to the trough and won't do anything. So there may be a ball stuck up on the playfield somewhere, or they may, you know, if your tilt switch is broken, the game won't even start at the beginning. You know, as soon as you start a game, it would end the game.
Well, that game was working like an hour before.
Yeah, it's probably got a ball stuck somewhere where you can see it, or maybe somewhere you can't. I mean, you'd be amazed when, and I know some of you that have played a lot of games, you'd be amazed where a ball can stop and sit on a play field. You get some of the craziest places, and a lot of times when you see one of those, you're like, man, that's not going to lose. You got to take your glass off. And if you're at a show, you know, the best thing to do is not pick up somebody else's game and start banging around on it, kicking it, or, you know, screaming or anything like that. Come see one of these guys and they'll free it up for you. But that's more than likely what's happening, because the game cannot resume. It does not want to repower anything up until it lets that ball drain all the way back into the trough. And gravity should take care of that. Like I said, a lot of times it's because somebody lost the ball. A lot of our parts are Williams parts. You know, we have Williams mechanisms for flippers, pop bumpers. A lot of our parts are interchangeable. If you need something quick, something's broken, you know, we generally stand behind our product pretty well for, you know, especially in the warranty period. If you want another pop bumper part or something like that, it breaks within, you know, some short period of time, you can put something on there from a Williams game or Marco. You know, go online and buy a part until your part from the factory comes in. Like I said, all of our lighting and all are connectorized. So if you have individual light problems or big board problem, you know, where that's contained with one of those big green blobs under there, or that's in one little small spot, we can send you just the smallest part, and it's 1 or 2 screws, and you're disconnect and reconnect, and you're ready to go again. And that's generally what we do. Like I said, we're very fortunate that our customers like to tinker, they like to fix their own toys, they get a real satisfaction out of taking something broken and making it work again. We're the same way. We enjoy our games. So, switches on ramps, switches on like I said earlier, you can test them here. The best way to test the switch is with an actual ball, because the ball rolls over it a lot different than your finger if you're trying to test it with your finger. It's somebody else's game. You don't do this. It's yours. So I can test things like if the ball goes through this lane here, it should interrupt this opto. I can do that by testing it right there. I can test my switches. I generally like to bounce these and hear a little ting sound. You want to make it push in on this foam a little bit. You don't want it so sensitive that doing this activates switches. It's okay to do that, to test the switches. Make sure no slingshots hit. No bob targets register.
I'm taking the other one.
Yeah. Not your game.
That's the special white glove service right there. What was it Jack was doing? And turn around and give them a mule kick. Yeah, they're on a piece of commercial equipment. They can handle it. So make sure your switches, you can test them on a ramp here. They should go to a certain point. Made switches are put in a location where when you enter, if you get to the made switch, there should not be anything that could keep the ball from going the rest of the way around the ramp. So if the ball makes this switch right here, it ought to be rolling around the rest of the ramp. Gravity should do the rest of the work for you. You'd have your game leveled and all that kind of thing. Some of these are very tight, but the angle is not so much. So if you were really bad off angle, you could get a ball that was going to hang right here. Sometimes a ball come around, I've noticed, really slowly here and get hung like right there. And what you do on our games then is just quit flipping the flippers, because the flippers will cancel a ball search. So stop flipping the flippers and just wait for the ball search, and this thing will lift up the arm and the ball will continue down the ramp and come back. So micro switches, you know, like I said, it literally could go on for days. Micro switches click. When you get a click, the click should coincide with the sound on here. If you're getting a click and you have to push the button, the arm of that micro switch even further in order to get it to register here, your micro switch is going bad. It needs to be replaced. The click should coincide with the making of the switch. When they start wearing out is when those springs don't quite, make the contacts make inside, and they make the clicking sound without closing the switch. And that's not good. That's gonna stop. And whatever, the switches are the most important part of the game, other than flippers and popovers, things that kick, of course, because the ball, you need to know where the ball is at all times.
What are the switches, resistor locking?
So those are optos in there. So if I drop a ball in there, see it roll through all the 4 ball lock optos in succession, and then pops out the other end because this thing kicks, knows that there's a ball stuck in there and it's supposed to let it loose. What's so nice about these being able to power the play field and all the switches that control solenoids, continue to control those solenoids while you're sitting here working on the game. So if you see something that needs to let go, or a slingshot switch, or a pop bumper, then it should come around there, and you'll notice where it comes to rest. It should be in the phone scoop. So when I come out of here, I'll kick that guy out. Or finishes this other stuff. And put it back in the trough. What else?
Questions?
Like I say, if you want to talk about anything at all, I love talking about pinball, I love talking about our games. What you got?
The virtual spinner you mentioned earlier, sorry. I was just about that. So, is there a way to vary the speed of the virtual spinner based on how well you make the shot or how strongly you make the shot?
That's going to be a programmer thing. They decide how to code that and interpret the switch closures and things like that. I don't think that's going to be an adjustable something in settings.
Well, yeah, actually, there isn't a pair of optos, right? You'd need a pair to be able to go, ooh, this really came in fast. And they don't have that information. So what they did was they have animations for like 4 different kinds of spinners, and there are sounds that correspond to those animations, but they're kind of chosen randomly because they don't have the information to be able to do what you do with a physical spinner and say, bam, I really nailed it. Yeah. Because there isn't really the distance, right, with that particular target. By the time they know the ball's there, right, there wasn't the physical space to have a pair of optos.
I mean, you can get into all kinds of crazy things, like how fast after the flipper switch was activated did that opto close. I mean, you can torture yourself like that in programming as much as
Yeah, I mean, we simulated the variety of spins that you get, but it's not coupled to your shot into the theater.
Yeah, if I had 2 pairs of optos there and I could measure time between the closures of the 2 optos,
Yeah,
I'd have
that'd
a really
been
good
sweet.
idea of speed.
Yeah.
But you're scaring the girl.
What else? You had one here?
I was gonna say for example, on a Williams game, if there's a problem, it'll say check this fuse or check that switch. What kind of troubleshooting help does this have built into it?
Same sort of thing as Williams has. You've seen the credit dot after credits 1, or if it's on free play, it'll have a period underneath there. If it's got something that needs attention and the game's trying to tell you, we have a dot on this screen that we can make in one very corner down here red, and it was 1 pixel. And it was a little bitty red dot, and people just went crazy. Oh my God, what are you putting a red dot on there? I thought my monitor was going bad. Or, no, it was just our way of doing a credit dot. So we made it where you could turn it on and off. If you want to see that dot when there's a problem, when the game's saying I need a little of attention or need you to check something, then you can turn that on in software, and it would come down to it with a little red dot here. And if you're on location or whatever, you turn your game on, you get ready to play it. You say, oh, there's something in here. Then when I enter here, when I came out here, it would immediately go into a screen here telling me what kind of just like Williams does, bang, 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 and tells you what's wrong. But it sees that screen would come up first here. And when you highlighted one of the problems and hit enter, it would take you like if it was a switch saying that the plumb bob is probably broken, or check the plumb bob. If you highlight that value and hit enter on the list, it'll take you right into the dedicated switches. You can reach in there and wobble, wobble, wobble that a few times and clear that error and go back out. So yeah, there's not, we don't have the Williams check on the switch matrix. The ones we were talking about, the fuse is bad. Those are from a Williams. One of the locations in the Williams switch matrix is called always closed, and I think it's 2-3, column 2, row 3, something like that. But if you look on every single Williams game, there's in that same spot in the matrix it says always closed. And what that does is allows them to test the power on power up. If that switch is closed, I've got good power to my switch matrix, and I don't have to tell you to check that fuse. So that's how they're able to do that. We didn't waste a spot in our 128 switch switch matrix. We may need to use that at some point. And there's other ways to do it right. But yeah, the game can tell you that switches and things like that are not functioning properly. It'll tell you when something that's triggered by a switch, it didn't pop up like in a Hobbit, the things that come up out of the playfield, the beasts. If those don't pop up correctly after a couple of games, because they know, they trigger it, they tell it, jump up now. And then it has a switch that tells it when it's completely up. If that switch didn't activate after it told it to jump up, and it doesn't do it for several times in a row, it says, okay, I'm going to quit telling you to pop up, and I'm going to send the guy a message and say, check that orc over there, he's probably broke.
Let's jump in back.
All right. Thanks, Gabe. So yeah, there are some different ways to check things. A lot of it's going to be just, you turn it on, your flipper doesn't work, and you go into that power fuse stream like I was telling you, and other things aren't working too. You can start to see, which fuse is probably the problem. Open that back up back here, see the light that's out next to that fuse. And of course, when you have this power turned off at the coin door, you enable a high voltage here by pulling that switch out. Much more of those lights will come on the board, because now it's getting high power also. So some of those will look at a glance, you think, oh wait, the coin door's open. Forgot about that. So.
All right, why don't we break off into informal discussions?
Yeah, well, I'll hang
Butch
out here.
Peel.
You wanna come up closer?